Alright, so I'm ready for the Wildland 1 tutorial. Like usual, I will demonstrate, I will show the strategy first, and then I'll analyze it with a slow motion. And everybody in chat, just type in questions or whatever, and I'll try to explain it as well as I can with the video. And yeah, enjoy. So Wildland 1 has 4 different strategies, starting pretty simple with grip style driving without any advanced techniques. And you'll be surprised, 3 out of 4 strategies have, at least in potential, they can beat the world record. The world record is 109.0, and even the second strategy can potentially beat the world record, although you will never see that from a human player. So, let's go. Alright, strategy 1. Almost 11 seconds faster than the Steph Ghost is on this track, just by grip style driving. Question in the chat, why is Red Gazelle better than, let's say, Twin Orita? You have several jump plates in the end of the track, and that's really what every strategy on Wildland 1 will focus on. Get as much speed as possible from those jumps, and then try to maintain the speed for as long as possible into lap 2 and into lap 3. Red Gazelle is slightly heavier. Because you can reach a high potential top speed, it pays off to put the settings far to the right, over +5 for Twin Orita. If the settings are over +5 on the settings gauge, the heavier ship such as Red Gazelle, Dead Anchor and so on, you can have a lesser far to the right setting, so it's about +5 for Red Gazelle. And that will, with the same top speed as the Twin Orita would get, but you have a much better acceleration. So that's why Red Gazelle. It has the same top speed as Twin Orita could get with a better acceleration. And you want to maintain as much speed as possible from those jumps. Alright, that was a bit long, but hope it's clear. Are there more Red Gazelle tracks after this? Yes, strategy 2 will build on this strategy and it will also use Red Gazelle. I think it's 2 out of 10, you have to do some jump plate management. Let's watch it and let's analyze. So you start off pretty simple, about the same acceleration as the Twin Orita, but with a higher potential top speed. Use some side attacks in the tunnel if you need to. I'm not using any on the opener lap myself, so you're not going that fast yet. Try to, minimize your steering, keep straight lines. In the tunnel that can be a bit tricky because, you know, it's going to the left or to the right a little bit, just a little bit. So you have to adjust your line accordingly to minimize the steering. But you cannot really pull much ahead of the Staff Ghost here. You can see the difference is minimal. But just by keeping straight lines, you're already winning time. So, in previous tutorials such as Mute City 2, I explained the trick for what you can do with jump plates. The trick is to drive into them straight, but hold the control stick completely up, like you would dive down really fast, but then right after hitting it, just a few frames later, let go and let the control stick sit in its neutral position. This way you will get a very fast acceleration from a jump like you were diving down fast. But because it's now in neutral position, you also get a lot of distance. So you get a lot of distance while you are accelerating through the air really fast. Now on this last jump, I hold down just a bit longer to land before this jump plate. Or you would overshoot it and, you know, you crash. Yeah, this, at least for the start, the Staff Ghost is a very good indicator for good pace, efficient driving stuff. Yeah, so you get a lot of speed from this jump, and we want to maintain that speed, but this tunnel is in the way. And this tunnel, especially at more tricky strategies, is going to be a pain in the ass. So I'm starting to boost as soon as I can when, you know, the line is clear, because you really do not want to lose grip in the tunnel. You want to keep that speed. And now we have, you know, a long straight through the looping, so just keep on boosting. In this strategy we will see a lot of the refiller, so we can replenish a lot of energy. So this is a strategy with the most amount of boost out of all of them. So you can see we're already 5 seconds ahead of that Staff Ghost. I haven't done anything too special yet, but that jump plate trick really pays off. Same thing for the second and the third lap. Yeah, it's playing at 25% of the normal speed in this slow motion. So especially for that last jump plate, because you have such a long way to clear before you land down in the filler, you can, you know, land at around 1400-1500 if you do it well. I'm using some side attacks to stay close to the walls in the tunnel. And you just watch that time difference. It's going to only get bigger. Yeah, just use up all your energy. You can save a little bit of energy if you are initially trying to beat the Staff Ghost, just to be safe on this part. Tap as fast as you can here. As usual with corners, it's better to side attack first and then steer as sharp as you want into the corner. If you steer into the corner and then side attack, you take the corner sharper, but you lose a lot more speed. And at these speeds, for Zero X standards, not that fast yet, it's not necessary to do that. Yeah, so just really clean driving, well over 10 seconds faster than the Staff Ghost. Not doing anything too special. Almost 11 seconds faster. Still the computer crashes into the wall in the tunnel. that's it. Hope it's clear. Yeah, this is, I think, one of the easiest Stealth Ghosts in the game. Alright, moving on to Strategy 2. Strategy 2 is largely the same strategy as Strategy 1, except now we are going to use the double tap dive. More specifically, we're going to use a little bit of air control to set up a double tap dive into the refiller. And that is going to win about 7 or 8 seconds. And potentially, if you drive just as clean as the video just showed, you can even beat the world record. So let's watch it. So there you go. The world record is 109.0. And this strategy gets 189. The settings are the same as strategy 1. So about +5 to the right. So the only, the major difference is doing an air control into double tap dive from that last jump plate into the refiller. And then clean driving is really essential to try to maintain that speed for the rest of the lap. And trust me, keeping that speed through the tunnel is very, very hard. And that's why you don't see anyone getting close to the world record using just this strategy. But at least in theory it's possible. So the beginning of lap 1 is identical up to this point. We're doing the jump plates just the same as the previous strategy, except for that last one, of course. So slowing down to 12% normal speed here. And at this point, I'd start to hold down left on the control stick and double tap Z for a left side attack, and then gradually move the control stick down to float up. Then at this point, I'm mashing the right side attack button and move the control stick fairly down right to the upright position. To point the nose of the ship down right. And at this point I start moving the control stick straight up and just mashing the Z button to dive down into refiller. And you can really see that the side attacks will take you back to the track. Keep on mashing that Z button through this corner right here. You can see even with the TAS run you can just barely make it. Now these next corners are very, very tough to make while maintaining as much speed as possible. So you have to use side attacks and then boost as soon as you get to this part to maintain whatever speed you have left. I keep on boosting all the way up to the dash plate in the looping. And as you can see, I'm going so fast that I'm not using up nearly as much boost as the previous strategy. because I travel much more of the road per time unit. So I have about half of the energy left for lap 3. You're not going to refill up much here, because you see how fast what kind of speed you land in the refiller here. So don't count on refilling up in the refiller with this strategy. So it's the same idea. We're slowed down up to about normal speeds for this section using that gym plate trick. Hello Daniel, welcome to the stream. Move the control stick to upright, up, mash the Z button and dive into that refiller. Yeah, it's just very optimal side attacking, keeping efficient lines. And I start to boost from this point on. So lap 3 is pretty much identical to lap 2. So Daniel, as you can see, even with this Red Gazelle strategy, you can potentially beat the world record. I wouldn't go for it, but you can do it. Yeah, so as for the last dive, you can optimally you would do the same as you would do in lap 2. Just land in a refiller and finish the race. But you don't have to be as careful here, because even if you crash, chances are that you will just pass the finish line before you blow up. There you go, 189. Yeah, that tunnel is really what kills the speed for most players. So I think a very good time that most top players would be able to get with this strategy is about 114, maybe 113 if you really grind it out. So there's a lot of potential left if you would be a total master of control in that tunnel. So there we go. Is there any way to play at this speed? Well, we try to. So, oh, you mean the playback speed, 25%? Well, the only way to do that is to slow down a game in an emulator. The real game goes a little bit faster, so unfortunately. But that's what keeps it fun, or else the time differences on the rankings would not be as big, of course. So, as you can see, even with strategy 3 coming up next, the target time I set is 113. And I think that's around top 5 already. This will comfortably beat the world record in its potential. Now we're shifting to a drifting strategy. And we're having a little bit more fun with the jump plates in the end. I would say it's 6.5 out of 10, which makes it, you need to be a somewhat advanced player to pull it off and know what you're doing with double tap dives. So let's watch it first. So there you go. 1 of 5 potential drifting strategy. Yeah, so the comment is ACI DTD IQ, ACI DTD LDF time. Yes, indeed. So for those of you who don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But it's basically chaining two double tap dives together via a jump plate. So you do air control into double tap dive and you chain that together to a second one, which is what we just saw. And then try to do a low dart form of the double tap dive. So let's watch this back. We're choosing the Bloodhawk or the Hellhawk, full acceleration for drifting. Drift around this first corner, as you would usually do, so take advantage of the full width of the road. This is where I use a side attack into a drift to stay close to the inside here. Go along the apex of the corners. And you can do a little switch drift in between the dirt zone or the dart zone, whatever you want to call it here. I'm just extending it to the maximum here. That's you can do that or not. Just play around with it. To keep the speed in the looping, I'm real drifting here for the dark textured part. So this is a good visual indicator for how long you should be real drifting in order not to lose too much speed. I'm using a boost drift, taking advantage of the width of the road here, which is not very much, but you will be able to get speeds over 1000 kilometers per hour on this straight here. So it's good to keep your speed high, because we do not have a lot of top speed potential. Of course, just drift around this corner. This corner is actually a lot more tricky than you might think, because of the way it ends. It ends in a sort of corner to the right here. It's very easy, especially at high speeds, to hit the rail there. So for the jump plate section, what do I do? First jump plate, same as previous strategies. Hold up, let go, fly out. Now I'm doing the air control. I start side attacking Z here. Move the control stick to down, left and down. Float up. And it's sort of in one smooth motion. I'm mashing R here. Move the control stick via down right to up right. I do a few right side attacks. And at this point I start to move the control stick to the straight up position and I start mashing the Z button to dive and try to land before this next jump plate. So it's kind of tricky to not overshoot that. It's actually the same inputs for the second dive. Double tap Z, down left to down. As you can see, I'm floating up a little bit longer here. Now double tap R and move the control stick via down right to up right. Pay close attention to the track. Now I'm holding up on the control stick and mashing Z to land in the refiller. So this is a low dive form. You can see the ship is all the way on its side. And I'm actually very high up in the air, so I'm easily getting 3000 kilometers per hour. Same idea, try to maintain that speed through the tunnel. I'm not boosting in the first part of the track because first of all, boost doesn't work over 2000 kilometers per hour and you're gonna need all your attention here just to stay away from the walls and to get through that in a good line. When you get through the corners in the tunnel, keep on boosting all the way up to the dash plate at the end of the looping. Now in lap 2, I'm choosing to side attack around this corner because drifting without boost would lose you speed. And now we're going not that fast anymore, and now this jump plate section can be the same as lap 1 actually. Chain 2 air control and 2 double tap dives together. And also you really do not want to hit that first jump plate at too high of a speed, because you will most likely overshoot the jump plate after your first double tap dive. What you could also see is that I was floating up at an angle already. And that happens when you land very close to a jump plate. It takes a bit of time for the ship to reset to a normal horizontal position. And while this roll is still resetting, if you hit the jump plate, you will float up on an angle, and you can take that even to your advantage to set up a quick double tap dive low dart form. And that's what you could see me do there. So in this section I'm using up all the energy. You can also boost drift here, but then you're going too fast to really pull off the chain reaction of double tap dives, because the jump plates are close together. In a later strategy, we can see an alternative way to take these jump plates to take advantage of extra speed you can have. Yeah, you can get a super efficient diving angle easily if you hit the jump plate while the roll of the ship is still resetting to neutral. And there we go, 105 potential. Alright, so your question is, does the PAL version or the European version have the same limit for your boosting? The answer is yes, the exact same limit. And considering the PAL version is a slower game, with 2500 as the highest speed you can achieve, relative to the NTSC version you can keep on boosting with effective boosts at higher speeds. So 2000 kilometers per hour, anything higher than that, the boost is not effective. So it doesn't really do anything other than deplete your energy. And that's the same for PAL and NTSC. So if there are situations where you go well over 2000 kilometers per hour and you can boost, then whatever the PAL version is really advantaged. Exploits for this difference, well, there are several tracks. Wildland is one of them, especially on the strategy I will demonstrate in a moment, where the PAL version is really easier to maintain your speed because your boost is effective for a longer period of time. So taking off for jumps is going to be easier because you're going faster. This is only for really super optimized stuff. Alright, so let's watch strategy 4. And strategy 4 is going to be interesting because it's going to be completely different from strategy 3. So here we go. So there we go. 102 potential. Again, the world record is 1090, so it's quite a bit faster than the world record. This is the same strategy as the world record uses. As you can see, it's completely different from strategy 3. I rated 8.5 out of 10. It is not that hard to do this strategy, but it is really, really hard to do this strategy somewhat optimal. Another difficulty with this strategy is that the last gym plate you're going to hit when you're diving pattern, before the floating section, you're going to hit it at very high speeds. And that comes with a problem. It can glitch out, and it will glitch out, and it will glitch out often when you try this. So that's another thing that comes with this. It's gonna be there's a luck factor there, just to get the gym plate working. So yeah, let's analyze it. So the very first section is the same as the previous strategy, but it starts to differ in this looping. Previously I was doing a real drift on the right side here, but because in this strategy we do not hit any refiller ever, we're way over it, we don't go near the refill zone. I'm just using a drift in the middle of the looping here to keep the speed up just a little bit, and another boost drift here along the width of the road to keep the speed high. Yeah, you could say gym plate RNG. It's really luck based if you will hit the hitbox of the gym plate in one of the frames that you're near it. It's very easy to pass right through it between frames. So what we're doing in this strategy, we're doing the air control onto double tap dive from the first gym plate, a left side attack, move the control stick down left to down, then right side attack and move the control stick down right to upright. To set up a good diving angle, I'm using 3 right side attacks. Now at this point, I move the control stick straight up and start to mash the Z button. You will land close to the next gym plate and you can build up a good amount of speed for the takeoff here. Same idea, left side attack, control stick down left to down. Then right side attack, control stick down right to upright. You can say hello to the looping in the distance. I'm using 3 right side attacks here. You can also do it with 2 well timed right side attacks. And then hold up and mash the Z button. Now this next gym plate is a real pain in the ass. If you land close enough to it, the roll of the ship is still resetting. And you will also lift up here with the ship still tilted to the side just a little bit, just a hair tilted to the side, and that's what you can see here. And this actually you can use to your advantage. Just keep on floating with a straight line. Don't fly up, you will definitely crash. This checkpoint has a very low height tolerance. Then at this point, what I'm doing, I'm left side attack and I'm holding left and only very slightly down left on the end of the side attacking pattern. And down right below you is a corner before the stretch to the finish line. I'll pause it here because there's a lot going on. Yeah, so you need to get the checkpoint to count on the track below you before the stretch of road to the finish line. So you need to fly in a straight line all this way over the refiller just to get to that checkpoint to make it count. And then left side attack and try to straighten out the ship and keep a good floating angle. Another tricky point is in lap 1 you do not have boost, and boost is really gonna help you out. Keep up your height during the floating section. So you can choose to not do this strategy in lap 1 and just do it in lap 2 only. That's what I do personally, but you will win time if you can also pull it off on lap 1. And that's where the tilted angle of the ship is really come in handy, because this will keep you in a very favorable straight floating angle to keep your height up. So you can see the finish line down below. I'm using some left side attacks to move the ship around. Now when you're moving around you can see the tunnel, and at this point you can see the tunnel down below you, and the roof of the tunnel is closed. That means that the checkpoint in the corner leading up to the tunnel has not counted yet. If you dive to the tunnel at this point, you will fall through the track and you will crash. So you want to stay to the right of the entrance of the tunnel. Watch closely and you will see that I will stay to the right of the entrance of the tunnel here. If you stay to the left of the entrance, you will crash. You will skip the checkpoint. You see, I'm staying just to the right of the entrance. Now, the track will disappear. I'm floating for a little bit till lap 2 starts. When lap 2 has started, only then I'm using left side attacks to move the control stick down left to up left. And now you can see the tunnel below you the roof has cleared. The roof is open now. And when the roof is open, that means that the game thinks that you're somewhere in the tunnel. So the roof on the top side is not being rendered. And that means you can dive into it and the checkpoints will count. So at this point, the ship is tilted to its left side. I move the control stick straight up and I start mashing the right side attack button to dive down in the tunnel, and you can go near the max speed of the game if you do it really optimally. You can see the roof is open. That means the game thinks you are somewhere here. Now I'm intentionally waiting with boosting until the speed drops below 2000 kilometers per hour, because it will not have any effect otherwise. So keep on boosting all the way up to this dash plate, and you can see I have a lot of energy left. For lap 2, I decide to just stop boosting for this at this point, side attract to this corner, same idea as the previous strategy, and repeat. Repeat the same diving pattern. Again, this huge luck factor is gonna come into play with this last jump plate, especially the last one, but it can actually also already happen on this jump plate. It has happened to me. You glitch through it. Alright, I'll pause real quick. At this point, what is easier to do, if the side attacks are tricky for you, and they are very, very tricky to do, you can also right side attack, keep the control stick as horizontal as possible when the ship is also horizontal, and air drift to the left. You want to air drift well to make the corner checkpoint count before the finish line. Air drift to the left into a floating angle and keep floating to the right of the entrance of the tunnel, just like what I showed in the previous lap. In the most optimal way, you do not need to use an air drift. And as you can see, I'm going 1596 kilometers per hour still at this point. The most optimal way, you can use left side attacks to turn the ship around. But an air drift is easier, so when you're first starting out with this stuff, you may want to try an air drift first, just to see if you can land in the tunnel. I boost here, just to get a little bit extra height. Set up your diving angle, and I'm now going to land easily at 3000 kilometers per hour in this tunnel. I'm waiting with boosting. If you would boost, you can also go over the dirt zone, take a better line, but I prefer to use the boost in the most effective way possible. So I still have a lot of energy left, so it would have been just fine to air drift here, because you have plenty of energy to spare. But optimally you do it like this, and I just keep on boosting for one more boost here, and then boost drift around this corner, and this corner can really mess you up. It just killed many of my runs when you straighten out here, that you hit that rail there. It's very, very tricky actually. Now I'm going way fast when I starting up this double tap dive, so it's the same idea as before. Air control into double tap dive, and then another air control into double tap dive. But this one I'm doing a sort of a suicide finish idea. So from this double tap dive because it's so high up, you can move the control stick to up left and just fly all the way to the finish line and finish the race. Yeah, so your question is, does boosting over the dirt plates stop you from losing speed? Yes, so over 2000 kilometers per hour, all boost does is the dirt plates will not affect you anymore. You can cut across those and the energy will deplete, but it does nothing to your speedometer. And there we go, 102 potential. And that was the Wildland 1 tutorial. If there are any more questions, I'll be happy to answer you and show it back in the video. If not, I will move on to